Hey folks, thanks for checking out Reigniting Liberty. I'm Deneen Borelli and Dr. Tom Borelli is in the house, bringing you the truth in black and white. All right, we got a doozy for you this time, my friends. The liberal left are losing their collective minds over Elon Musk taking control of Twitter. They have lost their minds. Democrats, the media, they are attacking Musk on all ends. And that's only part of their intimidation game. A number of civil rights groups, including Black activists, are working hard to bankrupt Twitter by encouraging corporations to pull their advertising dollars away. Boom, just don't do it. Pull your dollars away from the Twitter platform. Twitter gets about 90% of its revenue from advertisers. 90%, so that's huge. You end the advertising, you end Twitter. So once again, these groups are proving they are fundamentally liberal Democrat front groups whose primary mission is to advance the left-wing cause. That's it, Dr. Tom.
Well said, Deneen. Very well said. Yes, in this episode of Reigniting Liberty, we're going to discuss what these activist groups are doing and how they're doing it and the impact it could possibly have on Twitter. That's today's discussion. Yes, the Democrats are up to their old tricks, and you referred to it before, Deneen, the old intimidation game. They got this thing down very, very well. This
down
is
to
what
science.
They do.
Yep.
They're out to punish Elon Musk and Twitter because Musk wants to open the platform for more free speech, which will allow conservatives to express their opinions as opposed to the primary owners or runners of Twitter, which, as we know, they silenced conservative thought. They silenced it. So Musk wants to open it up. They're using the old effective tactic of pressuring advertisers not to advertise on Twitter. This is what they're up to. As you mentioned before, Deneen, no advertising revenue. There will be no Twitter because they cannot get any revenue unless Musk totally changes the platform to a subscription base. And that would be harder because people are used to, guess what, Deneen? Free stuff.
Free stuff.
Free stuff. So exactly. These social media platforms, whether it be Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, they're free. And people are resistant to pay up for something that's free. First, let's go for a little background on Democrats and their very critical analysis of Twitter right after Musk mentioned that he was going to buy Twitter. As you said, Deneen, they lost their collective minds. And it was quick, fast, and furious. Now, the strategy here is really important because this is not a one-off effort, what they're doing against Twitter. The Democrats, the media allies, and the activist groups, they all play together with this strategy. So we've seen this game before, but I think it's important to explain to our audience why this is happening so they understand what's going on when they see these attacks. The way I look at it, it's like an invasion on an island. First, what they do is before you invade an island, what you do is you blast the island with air cover. The airplanes come in and they loosen up the forces, so to speak, for the invasion. And this is exactly what's happening. The Democrats, elected officials, and the media, they loosening up the ground forces by totally blasting Twitter at every point they can. And then that opens up the environment for the invasion of these activist groups. And this is exactly what's going on. So right after Twitter agreed to sell, the board of directors agreed to sell to Musk, it didn't take long. Senator Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat from Massachusetts, she weighed in on the purchase by Musk. Actually, she did it on Twitter. Imagine that. This is too good, right? This is what she said. She said in a tweet, "This deal is dangerous for democracy." Oh, that soundbite again. Everything's dangerous for democracy. More free speech? Wait, let me finish. She said, "This deal is dangerous for democracy. Billionaires like Elon Musk play by a different set of rules than everyone else, accumulating power for their own gain. We need a wealth tax and a strong rules to hold big tech accountable." Hold big tech accountable?
Ah,
Facebook, anyone?
yeah, right.
Right?
And why
Unbelievable.
now?
It's,
Why
it's all
now?
good when they have that team, but as soon as you might have a threat, then they try to beat the hell out of it. She wasn't the only one. Democrat senator from Michigan, Debbie
Mhm.
Stabenow, she was concerned that Trump would be allowed to return to Twitter. Oh, the
He's
horror.
living
The
rent
horror.
free in their heads still.
Right. Oh, the horror. Already Trump,
Oh
Trump, Trump.
boy. Yep.
Derangement syndrome. Whoop, whoop. So here's what she said in the statement, quote, "I don't think someone who encouraged and organized a violent insurrection should be allowed on Twitter." That
Oh
was
boy.
Democrat Senator Debbie Stabenow. So
Yeah.
that's what their initial reaction was. Again, loosening up the public environment, the public opinion that this is bad. This is what they're up to.
Yeah, it's the silly season like all year long with the Democrats, and anything about free speech, they freak out because their policies suck and they don't want us to point out how bad they suck. So, Dr. Tom, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, they slammed Musk's purchase. They are worried about the consequences of total free speech, which would
Oh,
allow disinformation and the ability of the platform to dial down a candidate's voice. So let's listen to this reaction. And even President Biden dipped his toe in on this as well, Dr. Tom. He jumped in head first. He called for a federal investigation of Musk's purchase of Twitter. I mean, Biden Inc. anyone? He's calling for a federal investigation on this. But really, this just sets the stage for the activist invasion. And just like you aptly described how they're basically carpet bombing to like open the space so that they can all just rush in. Now, this is from a CNN story, November 4th. Elon Musk said Twitter has seen a massive drop in revenue as more brands pause ads because of activists. Twitter has had a massive drop in revenue due to activist groups pressuring advertisers, even though nothing has changed with content moderation, and we did everything we could to appease the activists, he said
of
in a
course.
tweet. It continues, extremely messed up. They're trying to destroy free speech in America. And this story also mentions companies such as General Mills, Volkswagen, Audi, General Motors, and among others. They've paused placing ads on Twitter. So they're running scared. I mean, this is crazy. They're supposed to be doing business as they see fit, and they're allowing the activists to run the show. So you have groups including ADL, NAACP, and Color of Change. They are all worried about the increased level of hate speech, Dr. Tom, on Twitter. And that's this argument that they are using against Twitter. So the argument, Dr. Tom, is Musk is firing a lot of people, including people that monitor content, the so-called content monitors.
Yeah, the
Right?
people who silence conservatives, by the way.
Right. Some of these groups, they met with Musk. They wanted to discuss their concerns. So a huge double standard here, but we'll get to that in a minute. So, while Musk, he wants to open up Twitter, right? He wants to open it up to be more open with regard to free speech. He does not want the platform to be a free for all hellscape. And that's a quote. Musk is trying to keep advertisers on board, and he told advertisers and ad agencies that the platform will be safe for their brands. So far, Musk's efforts are falling short because woke companies, they're afraid of the left-wing mob. And the mob is real. The left-wing mob, they work together. There is this network, man, and I tell you, from the ground up, whatever is coming from the top and from the bottom up, they are on it, whatever it is. So clearly, Twitter is getting slammed. Let's take a listen of this comment that was tweeted by Color of Change.
The radicalization in this country is largely taking place online and on social media.
Just hours after Musk took over, new data shows there's been a drastic rise in hate speech.
500% peak in the use of the N-word on Twitter.
Hate speech surged by 1,700% in the first week of Elon Musk assuming ownership of Twitter. So Color of Change and other civil rights groups like Free Press, NAACP, and the Anti-Defamation League met with Musk to demand that civil rights protections be maintained through the midterm elections.
Holding off on big changes until the election is very much about harm reduction.
And Musk agreed to every one of our demands. But shortly after that meeting,
thousands of Twitter employees are out of a job.
Musk began taking actions that undermine Twitter's ability to follow through on his promises. Actions speak louder than words. So the Stop Toxic Twitter Coalition and Color of Change have launched an advertising boycott of Twitter.
According to recent earnings reports, advertising makes up 90% of Twitter's total revenue.
Musk, like every other businessman in our country, needs to find a way to run a profitable company without endangering our democracy and harming marginalized people. As part of our long-term fight to hold leaders like Musk accountable to creating equitable civil rights online, we are urging corporations to join the Twitter advertising boycott. Sign the petition and demand that corporations stop funding hatred on Twitter.
Dr. Tom, oh my goodness, what do you think of this ad that urges people to sign a petition to be used against advertisers, against companies?
Yeah, again, ironically, Color of Change did this in a tweet. And they used this as a free platform to advertise to bankrupt Twitter. So
right?
Go figure it out. But
you can't make this stuff up.
This is a perfect example of what activist groups do with respect to intimidation, and they lay out their entire case full of content, and they get people to sign a petition to boycott companies. This is what it's all about. And then what they do with these petitions, they pressure the companies that say, see, all these people, they think you're bad for being on Twitter. Again, they do this all the time. This is not a one-off with these activist groups. And just as you described, Deneen, the bottom line is they want to bankrupt Twitter. In a lot of ways, what's always interesting to me is the left sometimes they're better. They understand capitalism better than I think people on the right, because they use capitalism to destroy companies. How twisted is that? But they know the advertising revenue is important for the survival of Twitter. So what they want to do is make sure they can defund it to bankrupt it. So they understand the importance of advertising with revenue, and they leverage that. So as our listeners and viewers understand or recall, that both Deneen and I worked in corporate America for a number of years, me plus 25, Deneen just over 20, I believe. So we understand what happens inside a corporation when they get pressured by activist groups. So it kind of works this way. Those petitions will somehow find their way into the corporate suite, the C-suite, and there will be an individual who will tell the CEO or the head marketing person, oh, Houston, we have a problem. We have a billion-dollar brand, whatever it is. All these companies have billion-dollar brands, and now this brand is being threatened because you're advertising on Twitter. And this is what they use the argument inside the company, say, all right, with this pressure, I guess we should back off from advertising on Twitter.
Well, they're not fighting. They don't want to fight, Dr. Tom. I mean,
no, they're afraid.
The ones who are heading these companies, they're just as liberal as the ones who are doing this petition.
It's falling on what we would say is fertile ground. It doesn't take a big push these days, to scare them away. What they're worried about is damage to their billion-dollar brands, and they do not want to take that risk. Of course, they do with some issues like Disney and teaching sex to kindergartners, but that's another story. But Disney paid for that as well. But to your point, Deneen, there are a lot of left-wing people inside corporate America, so it doesn't take a very big push to get them to walk the Democrat activist line. So who are these groups? Okay, one that most people probably haven't heard of, but Deneen and I know about, is called Color of Change. They are an activist group that frequently pressures companies with the threats of boycotts by generating petitions. This is what they do. They describe themselves on Twitter as, quote, "We designed campaigns powerful enough to end practices that unfairly hold Black people back and champion solutions that move us all forward." So there are a Black activist group, fundamentally. And a little history here and context. Color of Change took credit for getting Bill O'Reilly off Fox News. They taking credit for getting Bill O'Reilly fired from Fox News. And they actually put together a YouTube video to tout what they did to Bill O'Reilly and to Fox. So they also put an effort together, quote, to turn off Fox. They had a campaign to have various establishments across the country, whether you're a gym, an airport, a restaurant, or a bar, they had an effort, a petition to get Fox off, to get them to turn the station to another network, like maybe MSNBC, where they can get a full dose of the left-wing propaganda. So that was another one of their efforts. And Color of Change also had a petition, I know you will all be surprised, to get advertisers to stop advertising on the Tucker Carlson show on Fox News. Why? Because Tucker is one of the most influential commentators on TV, often, frequently exposing the errors of left-wing thought and policies. So rather than debate these policies, get them off the air. Let's silence these people, whether it's Fox News, whether it's Twitter, whatever it is. A monopoly of thought and discussion is good for the left, and they will seek out to destroy the competition. This is what Color of Change is about.
The word tolerance keeps popping in my head. Oh, tolerance and openness and full disclosure and all that stuff. Yeah, right.
Debate,
right.
As you said before, their policy sucks, so they can't debate. So what they want to do is silence you.
That's right, exactly. And then let's move on to the NAACP, Dr. Tom. They are also involved. The organization is a Democrat advocacy organization, and they are triggered. They were triggered when Musk activated President Trump's Twitter account. They were triggered. This is from CNBC, a story, quote, "Civil rights leaders condemn Musk's decision to lift Trump Twitter ban. In Elon Musk's Twitter sphere, you can incite an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, which led to the deaths of multiple people, and still be allowed to spew hate speech and violent conspiracies on his platform," NAACP President Derek Johnson said in a statement.
Wait, hold on. Propaganda alert.
Something like that.
What they say, multiple people died?
Yeah.
The only person who died was
Ashley Babbitt.
Exactly. Who was shot by a security officer there in the Capitol in cold blood. That was the only person who died, but they said multiple people. Again, propaganda. And if you don't know any better,
that's
you
all
would
you know.
Believe that.
Yeah.
They get away with this nonsense.
True. Well, the irony here, Dr. Tom, is the economy helped Black Americans under his leadership, lower unemployment rates, higher wages. But this is a threat to the NAACP because, and it's the same message from these liberals, the Black liberals for many, many years, that Blacks are victims, need special treatment. And, you know, if you have issues and problems, it's all the white man's fault. Blame the white man. So their message of victimization is threatened because of our message of personal responsibility, lower taxes, less regulations, and how Trump's leadership on the economy and safety and security and many other things benefited Americans, benefited Black Americans. And
again, yeah. To your point,
they hate that.
The NAACP is supposed to be advancing Black people. That's their role.
Yeah,
So what are they so afraid of Trump when he actually helped Blacks?
He did help advance.
America?
I know.
Right.
I know.
They should have been cheering him along, but no, because they say they represent Black Americans, but they're just another liberal front group. Right. If it's liberal, if it's the Democrats, they're all for it. Don't worry about the results. It doesn't matter. It's an advocacy organization for Democrats, just like many media outlets. It's the same thing.
Yep. And here's another winner, Dr. Tom, Al Sharpton. Yeah. He is also on the Elon Musk Twitter bandwagon.
Shocking.
Sharpton signed a letter to Musk along with the heads from NAACP and the National Urban League, claiming a, quote, painful and shocking increase, end quote, in hate speech since Musk took over. Now, just check out this first sentence, folks. All right. As leaders of organizations that represent communities of color and religious minorities, we are alarmed by the rise in white supremacist propaganda and racial and religious hatred on the Twitter platform over the weekend. Dr. Tom Sharpton is a piece of work. His face should be in the dictionary under what that means, right?
He talking about propaganda, right? He's worried about, and all he does is issue the race card. Remember, hands up, don't shoot, which didn't happen. He's the propagandist. What he does is divide the country along racial lines. And guess what? He gets paid very well for it. He's even got a show on MSNBC over the weekend. Then where's your show?
I know, right? Well, it's here with you.
Yeah, exactly. There you have it.
But
what is emotion, right?
Yeah, right. But yeah, Sharpton is surely he is living large, man, big time. It was just reported how much he gets paid from the nonprofit National Action Network, which is based in Harlem. Nonprofit, right? He is living large, big time. This is from the Daily Mail. Quote, Reverend, which I'm only saying Reverend because it's here.
It's in the quote, right?
Otherwise,
he became what, a Reverend when he was 6 years old? Something like that? 8, 10?
I don't know. Anyway, Al Sharpton received a massive raise through his National Action Network charity that's nearly doubled his pay packet to nearly $650,000, with his nonprofit also shelling out $1 million on private jets. Woo!
Talk about living large, huh?
We need to do a nonprofit, Dr. Tom, because, and we can work both ends of the angle, right? Suppression of white people, suppression of Black. We can walk, we got both sides going here. We got to work on that. Well, look, even Sharpton's eldest daughter, Dominique, gets $78,000 in salary from the nonprofit. Woo, Dr. Tom.
Yeah, I talk about living large, right? Man. And anyway, especially with what Black Lives Matter organization did with basically, in my view, looting donors. What do you think Sharpton's doing? And he gets, I'm sure, a lot of corporate money too, because it's a way, we've talked about this forever, the way that it's basically paying Sharpton to stay away and don't criticize our company. It's a form of blackmail. And way too many companies fall into this trap Think about the revenue that his organization must get for him to pull out 600 grand, right?
650.
Right. I was rounding down. I was being too kind. Imagine that. And that doesn't include his salary at MSNBC.
Right.
So again, being a
And
agitator.
speaking fees, right?
Right. Being an agitator,
So, yeah.
being a racial divider, an ambulance chaser. Oh, by the way, I just remember that. Remember, Sharpton actually spoke to the Michigan State football team. Mel Tucker, who happens to be black, has a $95 million guaranteed contract over 10 years.
Wow.
And he asked Sharpton to come speak to the team. I think they did it virtually during the Floyd issue, I believe, after that. So
George Floyd, sure.
George Floyd. So there you go.
Yep.
So it's again, of all the people you're going to invite to talk to a team, right?
I know.
I should have done Burgess Owens instead. But again, I digress once again. They're making a ton of money, Sharpton is, for dishing out racial divide and propaganda.
And being a flamethrower.
Now he's targeting Elon Musk because maybe someone like you, or maybe someone like me, or maybe this podcast itself, critical of Sharpton, might reach millions of people. So in a lot of ways, Sharpton's protecting himself, right? Because he can't allow the truth to be told about what he's doing, how he can make 650 grand and fly around in corporate jets, right? As you said, living large. Got to keep that criticism down because it could expose him as what he is, a fraud. Well, Denise, do you have any comments other than that about Sharpton at all? Did we leave anything out?
I think it's all there. And folks are pretty familiar with him and his antics anyway for many, many years. Tawana Brawley comes to mind, a young girl who he exploited totally. So yeah, that really sums it all up, Dr. Tom. And he's still out there living large.
Episode again, because we're explaining exactly how the left works with the combination of forces. Everybody's got a role to play on their team. It's the Democrats, it's the activist groups, it's the media. They all work together. You name the issue, you'll see the same thing going on. But this one is really important because the Democrats, at the end of the day, they hate free speech. They want to control the narrative. They love monopoly on free speech because, as you said before, it protects them from being exposed because, as you said, their policies suck. But people don't know that if you can't hear the other side of the debate, the other facts. They just want a monopoly on thought and expression. And Twitter under Musk is a threat to that narrative. And speaking of Musk, he used to be the hero of the left, just like former President Trump was, right? Before Trump got into politics, they all loved him, right? Yes. Same thing with Musk. Musk was, Tesla, electric cars. Oh, wow, he's a great guy. Then whoops, he threatens them and all change very quickly, right?
On a dime. Yeah, it didn't take long.
Now, they hate competition because they know in a debate they will be exposed that just how bad their policies are for the American people. And again, this is so important because remember, Twitter played a huge role in the last presidential election when they stopped the New York Post Twitter feed when the Post was exposing the importance of Hunter Biden's laptop a week or two before the election. Twitter blocked the New York Post. And there are polls to say that if more people were aware of the laptop, what was involved and the contents, they would have voted differently. So this is why the left wants to control Twitter. This is why they want to put them out of business, because under Musk, an episode like that would likely be on Twitter and millions of Americans would be educated. And they can't have that. They can't stand for that because they can't stand up to the scrutiny. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line really is, Deneen, that Democrats, they're just afraid of free speech. And there's a reason why free speech is the First Amendment, right? The first.
If
They
they could
had their
change
druthers,
that,
they would erase
oh,
that too. Well, they go after the
exactly.
first one and the second one, guns, right to arm yourself,
Right.
that would go too. I'm not sure how
Yep.
many amendments we would have left under the Democratic control, but they're doing everything they can to bankrupt Musk. And the final thing I'll say is, in some ways, I'm happy they're attacking Musk, because after all, I believe he may be the richest person in the world, so they're picking on a multi-billionaire.
Yep.
And what we need are people with those sorts of resources. We need people on that side of the aisle who will be willing to take on the Democrat mob. And Musk may actually do that. And the more they hammer him, they're going to be pushing him to the political right, whether he wants to be right or not. He's going to
Exactly.
have to be, because the left is just showing just how bad they really are. Democrats hate free speech. They will do anything to silence Americans, and Twitter is just another example.
Absolutely, Dr. Tom. Well, folks, thanks for checking out Reigniting Liberty. And remember, everyone has a role to play. What are you doing for liberty? Until next time.